Okay, so my game of Breitenfeld from Lion of the North has ended. I reached the end of the 17:30, just before dusk starts. Reached the end of that turn, and essentially what happened was that the Imperialist, they've received their withdrawal level. You can see they had quite a few losses. They had lost 2 tertiaries out of, I think they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This was the losses on the last turn. So you see, and this is an Imperialist leader. So they lost quite a lot on the last turn, and that basically was thanks to the fact that Gustavus came back from helping the cavalry there and took some command of the Swedish line here, swung it around and took out the Swedish tertios. There was 3 there that had recently activated. You can see there's one there. There's one there. There's 2 more. So okay, so there's some there before, and then we lost the Swedish tertios here, routed away. Basically, what happened is that the Imperialists moved up here hoping to push away the Saxons and then take the flank. Now it was taking quite a long time, and the Swedish artillery were meanwhile kind of kept firing away. The cavalry melee on this side ended in the Swedes' favour, and seeing that impending, they thought, okay, they're going to charge down our flank, we better move up to the attack, because if we've then got Swedish cavalry, then we've got Swedish line moving up on us, and we're not going to be able to affect we'll just be on the defensive, and they felt that it was better to go on the offensive, feeling they needed to press the Swedes rather than leave the initiative up to the Swedes. It was probably a mistake, because yes, units that moved up there got decimated quite quickly, and then these ones were taking a hefty punishing. I'll show you, here's the loss sheet, so you can see some units, even though they hadn't routed, are down to very low losses. This is the Imperialist side. Saxons started taking quite some loss as well. They completely lost that unit, but you notice the Imperialist, the Swedes were taking a fair few losses too. Now a lot of that was, nearly all of that on both sides was due to musketry fire rather than because the shock tends to disrupt and then rout you rather than create losses. Although when you write off the map, you are lost. So I think the situation in the game, in fact, was actually closer than I thought. I think the Imperialists perhaps do have a chance. I thought their chance was not the Saxons out and take that initiative to try and roll up the flank, but on reflection now, their chance is not the Saxons out, so they just don't feature and stay on the defensive. As the Swedes come towards you, try and whittle them down with the artillery you do have, because there's not a ton of turns, although obviously with the activations the Swedes can have several activations. So the point is that with the Swedes, what I originally thought to do with them was to await some artillery barraging and then move in, but at the separation of distance between the 2 units, the artillery barraging was not having much effect, and so to move the artillery forward would take a lot of movement. They only have 1 or 2. The regimentals have 4, but they're not so powerful. Slow movement rate, so it would take a lot of turns to move the artillery up to an effective position, and then you have to put your attack in after a few rounds of fire. So if the Imperialists had left the Swedes to that, the Swedes might have miscalculated and enabled the Imperialists to perform a flank on the Swedes when they were up close without having to move forward and sort of get in a melee scrum. The other trouble for the Imperialists is that the Swedes do have these cavalry and some light infantry. They didn't even come in. The Swedes do have a preponderance of cavalry, and those cavalry is generally heavy cavalry, great at charging. The Imperialists are generally caracoling cavalry, which is sort of good at whittling down units, but they can withstand a charge, but they can't give it so well. So it's tough game for the Imperialists. Towards the end of it, last couple of turns, I was quite enjoying it, and they went quite fast because I was doing my method where I was just kind of like estimating whether I was rolling before I checked the tables, rolling all the necessary dice that might be used, and just estimating whether that was going to be a hit or not. It was a pretty good guesstimation, I'm sure, and it just made it run swiftly, and I checked when I felt I really needed to check. But anyway, that's over. I'm going to play Lutzen. I think I might play it next and record a video, but I am not going to play it with the full Great Battles of History rules. I am going to use the simple Great Battles of History rules, and I've already doctored up. Here's the weapon system matrix, so it's like the shock matrix chart for simple Great Battles of History. You can see I've already doctored, and I said what units are what. So tertios are I'm counting as phalanxes, and I'm checking with the Lion of the North tables. I've estimated pretty faithfully, as much as can be done in this kind of conversion, the ratings on like light infantry versus heavy cavalry and so forth. Same on flank rear attacks ratings, and I just had to factor in. I said, okay, muskets are acting well, they're not really anything as slingers, but they have 2 hex range, and pistols have 1 hex range. That's their rating so forth. Not all of that applies, and I'm really looking forward to it, because look, we've got a die roll summary chart here. 2 of them don't apply because they're to do with elephants, so that's all that the die rolls that we're going to need with the simple Great Battles of History. In Lion of the North, the die rolls chart, the die rolls reference chart is that. So there's tons of separate die rolls, 6-sided die rolls, 6-sided die rolls, 10-sided die rolls. So it's great, it's got a lot of detail, but it was too slow for me, even though it was the detail that made me think great when I got it. So that's Lion of the North. And now we're going to Lutzen with the simple Great Battles of History.